Welcome to our first week's lesson, Somaesthetics and the Renaissance Theater. I'm Dr. Cruz Peterson. The Renaissance immediately followed the period in Europe known as the Middle Ages. The Renaissance began in Italy during the 14th century and reached its heights in the 15th. In the 16th and 17th centuries, it spread to the rest of Europe. The Italian Renaissance spread to Spain during the 15th and early 16th centuries. The Spanish Golden Age, or Siglo de Oro, is the period of Spanish literature that extends from the mid-16th century to the late 17th century, with works from writers such as Lope de Vega and Ana Carre. It is generally considered the high point in Spain's literary history. During this time, also known as the early modern period, Spanish women worked as professional actors and were members of the Actors Guild. In England, the 16th century marked the beginning of the English Renaissance, with the works of writers such as William Shakespeare, who wrote during what is called the Elizabethan and Jacobean era. The English Renaissance ends in 1660 with the dawn of the Restoration period, when theaters reopened after 2 decades of silence. This is also the first time women are legally allowed on stage. By this time, women in Spain had been acting professionally for almost a century. We also see the rise of women playwrights, such as Afra Ben. In this presentation, we will briefly discuss Somaesthetics and its 3 branches: analytic, pragmatic, and practical Somaesthetics. As you view this lecture and read the chapter from Richard Schusterman's Body Consciousness, please keep in mind the objectives for this module, which are 1. The pragmatic Somaesthetic approach used to study Renaissance theater, and 2. How its 3 branches specifically relate to the theater. Somaesthetics, developed by Dr. Richard Schusterman, integrates theory and practice of body consciousness from both the East and the West philosophical traditions. The term Somaesthetics is a combination of soma, a body that is something more than flesh and bones, something that lives and is lived by, and aesthetics, a sensorial perception that links the body and the emotions to the sense of beauty. Somaesthetics extends beyond the conventional sense of beauty in art as visual representations or external appearance, where, and I quote, perception, language, understanding, and behavior all necessarily rely on contextual background in order to achieve their effective meaning and direction. There are 3 basic branches of Somaesthetics. On a social-political level, the first branch, analytic Somaesthetics, brings the understanding of the encoded somatic habits imposed by hierarchies of power enforced in laws and social norms. For example, how a woman should walk, speak, etc. It examines the impact of epistemological, ontological, and social-political issues relating to our, I quote, bodily perceptions and practices and their function in our knowledge and construction of reality. The second branch of Somaesthetics, pragmatic Somaesthetics, not only presupposes the theoretical branch, but prescribes various methods to enhance somatic awareness as a means of changing or remaking the body. In addition to the philosophical inquiry of ameliorative somatic awareness, pragmatic Somaesthetics seeks to synthesize physical actions with those of experience in order to propel the body into action. Its goals are threefold: the desire to improve the function of the body, self-knowledge of one's somatic habits and lived experiences that affect one's moods and attitudes, and an effective will to act on the self-knowledge. In theater, an actor must tap into her unconscious will in order to control or change a particular ingrained movement or gesture that prevents her from effectively performing. The third branch, practical somaesthetics, applies somatic awareness and experiential embodiment for, and I quote, heightened somatic sensibility and mastery. Practical somaesthetics involves actually engaging in programs of disciplined, reflective, corporal practice with the purpose of somatic self-improvement, found in practices such as yoga, Zen meditation, and Feldenkrais method, which focuses on the relationship between movement and thought in order to improve and maximize one's daily motor functions. Practical exercises such as these figure into training of performance skills as seen as Stanislavski's system, a coherent and practical method that aims toward truthful, realistic performance. Russian actor and director Konstantin Stanislavski, drawing from yoga principles, taught his students the art of self-observation by insisting on actors learning the laws, and I quote, the laws of correct breathing, the correct position of the body, concentration, and watchful discrimination, which must become the foundation of the development of that introspective attention on which all the work in the art of the stage must be built. In preparing for a role, Stanislavski required his actors to interact or commune with each other through tone and inflection. He led his students in breathing and concentration exercises that increased the actor's art of self-observation, which leads to finding meaning in her own personal experience. Let us now focus on the second branch of somaesthetics, pragmatic somaesthetics, and its three disciplines: representational, experiential, and performative somaesthetics. Dr. Schusterman classifies the branch of pragmatic somaesthetics into three dimensions, as I just mentioned: representational, experiential, and performative somaesthetics. Representational somaesthetics orientates itself toward external appearance, concerned more with the body's surface forms. On the other hand, experiential somaesthetics orientates itself toward inner experience. According to Dr. Schusterman, it aims at making us feel better in both senses of that ambiguous phrase, to make the quality of our somatic experience more satisfying and also to make it more acutely perceptive. These two disciplines are not mutually exclusive. Instead, they work interdependently. The third dimension, performative somaesthetics, focuses primarily on building strength, health, or skill. Depending on the goal, whether for external appearances or inner sense of power and skill, performative discipline may be linked to or assimilated into the representational or experiential dimensions. Furthermore, all three categories of pragmatic somaesthetics, representational, experiential, and performative, interconnect with both theory and practice, enhancing not only our discursive knowledge of the body, but also our lived somatic experience and performance. Representational somaesthetics is the altering of the body's external form as a way to comply with or diverge from social norms. For example, tattooing, piercing, or using cosmetic makeup. In theater, representational somaesthetics may be applied to the practice of altering the external appearance through costume, makeup, or hairstyle as a means of changing or enhancing a character's physical traits. For example, for the characterization of the transgender teen Brenda Tina in the movie Boys Don't Cry, Hilary Swank cut her long hair, donned male clothes, and adapted her masculine gestures. However, the character's physicality represents more than a mere external change. For Brandon Tina, the male dress and gestures are symbolic of her identity. She is not a woman dressed as a man, she is a man. For the actor Hilary Swank, the transformation was also more than just physical. Kimberly Pierce, the director of Boys Don't Cry, believes that Hilary Swank captured the spirit of the character, stating that Swank, and I quote, loved being Brandon, and that was one thing I knew. Brandon loved being Brandon. The role won Swank an Oscar for Best Actress and opened roles for her in other movies, gaining her economic and aesthetic agency. Likewise, in 1618, the Spanish actress Josefa Vaca was recognized with several awards as well for her transgender role, Gila in La Serrana de la Vera, produced in 1613. A woman who not only dressed in male garb, but feels muy hombre, very much a man. This part opened roles for Josefa Vaca in other plays, earning her top billing as Primera Dama, and we'll talk more about her later in the course. During the Restoration period in England's theatre, roughly from 1660 to 1710, the English actress Nell Gwynn was famous for the role called breeches roles, wearing tight pants that exposed her legs. In addition to individualizing a particular role, the practice of representational form permitted the Renaissance actor the prospect of diverging from social norms, which again, we'll talk about these two women and more about the social norms and how they prepared for the role later on. Experiential forms emphasize the aesthetic quality of the body's inner experience insofar as it works to, and I quote, enhance the everyday functioning of the body. An important technique in the actor's creative process is the experiential exercises that emphasize the aesthetic qualities of the body's experience. Performative somaesthetics can be applied to the actor's continued refinement of her craft. Actors improve their somatic movements with expression that come from within their own understanding, building physical strength and integrity that give credence to their character. For example, Dr. Schusterman observes that, and I quote, consciousness of breathing can therefore make us aware that we are angry, tense, or anxious when we might otherwise remain unaware of these feelings and thus vulnerable to their misdirection. This is especially pertinent for actors, since misdirected feelings can have devastating results in the actor's relationship with other actors on stage and their reception by the audience. Once the feelings of faulty movements are addressed, Dr. Schusterman believes, and I quote, the movements can be analyzed, corrected, and replaced by proper ones, accompanied by other somaesthetic feelings that can be habituated and then allowed to slip into unreflective but intelligent habit. For example, many roles in the early modern Spanish plays called for actors to engage in swordplay, which required her to adapt proper body posture and movement, building physical strength as well as technical skills for fencing. Women actors understood the economic and social benefits that the profitable play could grant them, studying and rehearsing many hours for their roles in order to effectively embody those characters on stage. They memorized the roles of several characters from different plays at one time, many of which were physically challenging. In conclusion, the body becomes the locus for which the individual exhibits her style or identity. Patras Pavis asserts that a body is worn and carried by a costume as much as the costume is worn and carried by the body. One helps the other find its identity. In other words, it is not enough to dress the part. The actor must also feel the part. Hence, through the somatic sensibility of all three practices, pragmatic somaesthetics, representational, experiential, and performative, the female actor prepared for and used the theater to expand her role in society, not by mirroring it, but instead by experiencing it. Please continue to the discussion board and in your own words discuss how pragmatic somaesthetics and its three branches relate to the Renaissance theater. Thank you.